Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to the National Wireless Safety Alliance's webinar on becoming an NWSA Practical Exam test site. My name is Shelley Trigo, and I'm the Executive Administrator for National Wireless Safety Alliance. This is the first of a three-part webinar series focusing on key steps and processes associated with establishing and administering the certification program's field-based practical exams. If you have any questions regarding the information presented during today's webinar, please feel free to contact NWSA. We'll have that contact information available at the end of today's presentation. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce your presenter, Erin Jones. Erin is the NWSA Practical Exam Program Manager. With that, I'll turn things over to Erin.
Thank you, Shelley. Today we are going to talk about holding practical exams at a location of your choosing, why you would want to do it, who is involved, and the roles they play, how to set up an exam, and finally, try to leave with you some tips that will make the process run smoothly. Why would you want to schedule exams rather to go to an established open practical exam site? You use your own equipment. If you are an employer or training provider, this is equipment that your candidates may have the opportunity to become familiar with. You get to set up your schedule. Once you establish the test site, you can administer exams on demand. All test sites are required to notify NWSA prior to testing, and we will go over that more in detail later. You don't need to pay for your employees to travel and all expenses that goes with it. If you opt to get a staff member accredited to administer the practical exam, you cut out that expense as well. In the event someone needs to retest holding exams at your site, you have a lot more flexibility to have that done. Only those who serve as test site coordinator have the ability to order reports on candidate testing. So if you want to have your pass-fail reports of your candidates, you'll need to be a test site coordinator in order to have that information provided to you. And finally, industry recognition. Those associated with getting their employees certified or offering certification are seen as placing value on safety and an asset to the industry. If you opt to obtain training, please know that NWSA does not conduct training, nor do we review or create curriculum. We do this so that we can provide a completely independent and objective assessment of knowledge and skill. However, training is essential to improving knowledge and skill, and therefore we do have resources, including a list of companies that have indicated they are offering training on our website. For those creating or updating a curriculum, or those doing self or group study to prepare for the exams, we have the exam outlines in the candidate handbooks, so the candidate knows exactly what they will be tested on. We also have a video showing the tasks that we'll run through on our website. While there are a lot of people in the background that are required for a successful test administration, there are three main roles involved. We will dive deeper into what each of these people do, but here is an overview. The test site coordinator. This is an employee appointed by the company that wants to hold the exam. This is our main contact person, and we rely on them heavily to help us make a seamless experience for the candidates. The practical examiner. This person has been trained and accredited by NWSA to set up the test site correctly and record candidate performance. Some of these roles may be played by the same person. For instance, the test site coordinator could also be the practical examiner. As I noted earlier, we rely a great deal on the test site coordinator. They are our main point of contact for the candidate that comes through them. Communication is a big part of the test site coordinator's job. They are expected to communicate with NWSA, the candidates, and the PE to create a positive testing experience. It is up to the test site coordinator to ensure the towers, equipment, and testing location meet NWSA criteria as outlined in the test site coordinator handbook. They are also required to stay up to date on all policies and procedures pertaining to exam administration. They can do this by making sure to review the Test Site Coordinator Handbook and by asking questions. First-time test site coordinators are required to sign a Test Site Coordinator Agreement, indicating that they agree to abide by the policies and procedures and have read them in the handbook. The Test Site Coordinator must submit a signed Test Site Coordinator Agreement, basically indicating that they have reviewed the handbook, they know the policies and procedures, and they agree to abide by them. It is up to the Test Site Coordinator to schedule candidates and inform them of their testing date and time. On the day of the exam, Test Site Coordinators need to remain on site throughout the testing process, or their designated representative. This is particularly important if the PE, or the practical examiner, is a contractor rather than an employee. They are responsible for preparing the pre-test area with the proper materials, including PPE for candidates to use in the event their PPE does not meet requirements, having the candidate handbook, as well as setting up the practical exam area and course. The practical examiner. The practical examiner is in charge of the actual exam administration from beginning to end. This person may be someone on staff, but they may be someone you've hired to come in and administer the exams. They are to administer the exams per NWSA policy and standardized testing practices at all locations. The examiner is required to provide test notification to NWSA of any practical exam testing being conducted. While the Test Site Coordinator may set up the course, the practical examiner is responsible for verifying the course is set up correctly and complete pre-test paperwork on such sites and using the site report. Practical examiners are responsible for keeping the site and candidates safe. They may stop an exam if they witness what is considered an unsafe act. They provide instructions and answer any questions for a candidate, as well as record the candidate's performance. They are not scoring the exam. And at the conclusion of the exam, they submit the score sheets, candidate applications, and candidate photos to NWSA for scoring. Before scheduling the first exam, you want to make sure you've appointed someone to serve as Test Site Coordinator. That person will want to review the Test Site Coordinator Handbook and make sure to secure the material needed for testing, including determining the towers to be used, identifying a location, and ensuring the material to set up the test course, such as a TTT1 mount assembly, guide wires, and capstan hoist are obtained. The Test Site Coordinator will also need to submit the test site application. All of these things can be done even if you don't have a solid date of testing. Of course, you will need a practical examiner to actually administer the exams. So if you don't have one on your staff, you will want to consult the Practical Examiner for Hire page on the NWSA website and seek an examiner to work with prior to scheduling the candidates. Here you'll find the URL to the Examiner for Hire page. You will find a list of examiners, what areas they are able to administer exams, and their contact information. Coordinators are responsible for submitting the test site application to NWSA at least 4 weeks prior to administration. In addition, the coordinator must submit the Test Site Coordinator Agreement form. This is what the test site application for NWSA looks like. There's one application per program, or one application per address. This application contains the programs for the Telecommunications Tower Technician 1 and the Telecommunications Tower Technician 2. Each physical location is assigned a different test site number. A practical examiner must be listed on the application for NWSA to process. Once approved, NWSA will email the practical exam test site number to the test site coordinator and company representative. The TTT1 program requires a specifically fabricated mount. This mount may only be ordered from Perfect 10 Wireless upon confirmation of your established test site. You cannot order this mount until you have received an email from NWSA indicating that your test site has been received and approved. Once your site has been established, an order form is provided with the approved test site email that you may submit to Perfect 10 Wireless. No individually fabricated mounts are permitted. These mounts must be ordered through Perfect 10 Wireless. Please be sure that you do this no later than 2 weeks prior to testing. However, NWSA highly recommends that this is done at least 4 weeks prior to testing in order to avoid any delay in shipping of materials. Once your paperwork is submitted to NWSA, we will process your request, and the first thing you will get is an acknowledgement that you have submitted a test site application. That will come via email, and it will include your practical exam test site number and the Perfect 10 Wireless mount order. The practical exam site number is specific to the address you provided. If you wanted to move to another location, that would require a new test site application. Examiners must provide test notification for each test administration. Notification must be submitted 2 full business days, holidays and weekends excluded, prior to the test administration. This helps NWSA facilitate the audit program, monitoring of the exam administrations, and monitoring of the practical examiners. This allows us to see and understand what type of areas or locations are administering the practical exams. Here's what the intent to test form looks like that is located on the NWSA website. Notice must be given for all days of testing. For instance, if you intend to test on Monday, June 4th through Wednesday, June 6th, you would note a start date of June 4, 2018 and an end date of June 6, 2018. Some other considerations about becoming a practical exam test site. Test sites that want to remain active must renew their site every January. This is not a 12-month renewal process. NWSA will invoice all sites at the end of the year. The test site fee for the first site is $250. Each subsequent site that is of the same host company is an additional $50. Any site that requires a secured entry must submit the security requirements report. This report contains the information on any security clearance, safety training, or security requirements needed for site access. If testing will be conducted on 2 towers at the same time, a practical examiner is required for each tower. Becoming an open practical exam test site. By becoming an open practical exam site, you are doing your part to make the industry safer. You are helping individuals seek NWSA certification at a location near them. You can provide supplemental revenue for your test location. It's free advertising for your company on the NWSA website. To request your site be listed on the practical exam test site, complete the agreement for listing of an open practical exam test site application to NWSA. Once received, NWSA staff will process your request, and you will be contacted if there's any missing information. This also allows individuals to seek NWSA certification at locations near them. This is a listing of the contact of an open practical exam test sites on the NWSA website. Should you choose to become an open practical exam test site, this is the location of where your information will be listed. This chart will help you guide you in your responsibilities as a coordinator. It is a flow chart of how to set up a practical exam. First, you will determine who will serve as your test site coordinator. Your test site coordinator will review the appropriate test site coordinator handbook, and then you need to determine if you have a practical examiner on staff. If you do, then you can submit for your test site application. If you do not, you will need to contract with an accredited practical examiner for hire through the NWSA website to administer the exams. Once you have a practical examiner scheduled for the testing, you may submit your test site application. Has the site been used for testing before? If it has, great. Make sure that your TTT1 mount has been ordered. You set up your site according to the site requirements, and you're ready to go. If your site has not been set up for testing before, you will need to submit the test site application at least 4 weeks prior to testing, order your TTT1 mount kit, again, at least 4 weeks prior to testing to avoid any delay, and then set up the site according to site requirements, and you are ready to test. NWSA wants you to succeed in establishing your practical test site. Here are some best practices to help you reach this goal. Plan ahead. Waiting until the last minute to establish your site or order your mount kits will delay your practical testing. If you are testing using an outdoor tower, be sure to plan for any environmental conditions. Consider having an inside tower as a backup to severe weather conditions. Ask questions. NWSA staff is here to help. Please be sure to ask any questions. There is never a dumb or stupid question. Read the Test Site Coordinator Handbook. All of the information provided in this webinar and the requirements for testing are contained in this handbook. If you can't find your answer there, please contact staff. Speak with your practical examiner. Ensure that they have provided test notification, and be sure at the end of the test day when testing has been completed that the practical examiner has the candidate application and fees, candidate form photos, and if they are submitting that in a digital format, that they are labeled properly with the test site number, last name of the candidate, and first name. And last but not least, make sure you have backup PPE for candidates' use during tests. If the candidate does not have proper PPE, they cannot test. For additional information and forms, please visit the NWSA website. Under Handbooks and Forms, you will find the Test Site Coordinator Handbook, as well as additional guidance in tower selection, setup, course material, and further information on NWSA's policies for practical exam administration. For help locating a practical examiner for hire, please visit the website. NWSA recommends contacting several examiners. Also, please be sure that you look for your weatherproof skeleton drawing that is located in the Test Site Coordinator Handbook, the site reports, and again, your practical examiner for hire listings. In a final review, here are some key NWSA terminology used when establishing practical exam test sites and responsibilities as an NWSA Practical Test Site Coordinator. Test site application is submitted prior to the first exam administration to request a specific practical exam location. Again, this is noted by the physical address of where the testing is to be conducted. A PE site number is assigned by NWSA to the specific address. It does not change for each test date, even if it is at the same location. It is also used on the candidate application. A pass-fail report. This report is available for order only by the test site coordinator with a pass-fail status for each candidate testing. You may request this at the time of the exam administration once testing has been concluded. Here are some points of contact for you for NWSA. Clint Cook is our NWSA Practical Examiner Accreditation Program Instructor. Myself, the Program Manager for Practical Exams. Janelle Shaw is our Program Coordinator for the Practical Exams. Jacqueline Horrocks is the Senior Associate in our Testing Services Department. She handles all scoring of candidate score sheets and applications. And of course, there's Shelley Trago, Executive Administrator. She can help you with any information regarding NWSA. Please join us for the following additional webinars. A guide to setting up your NWSA practical test site, as presented by Clint Cook, on Wednesday, June 27th at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Become an NWSA Practical Examiner, presented by Clint Cook, Wednesday, August 1st at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Future webinars are being developed. If you have a topic you'd like to hear about, please let us know. If you have any questions or wish to contact NWSA, you can contact either staff at the following email address. Please do not hesitate to contact us with any questions. A recording of this webinar will be made available on the NWSA website. We should have it up in a couple of days. And with that, I would like to thank you for all for attending, and I hope you have a good day.